I'm just homeless. I'm living in Bray in a field, and decided to come out to Dublin to get. I can't afford to live in Dublin when I'm homeless. So I'm living in Bray with my friends, and just busking in there because I can afford to bus there. But again, it's not a housing problem. Those rich people will build big estates. They're building big estates all over Wicklow. They're building houses all over to justify their presence. But it's Central Plaza, man. It's these big castles. There's one on the quays there. They're all owned by like these big American corporations. You want to be squashing them out because they're squashing you out, and it's your country. So squash them out before you get squashed.
People often talk about this being the worst housing crisis in the history of the state. It's probably true in terms of numbers, you know. I don't think we've ever had 4,000 children homeless before. But housing has never been normal in Ireland. We've never had a situation where the vast majority of people could afford good quality housing that was secure. For 20 years before this crisis, housing was dependent on a property bubble where people were encouraged to borrow enormous amounts of money that they couldn't afford in order to buy homes and make profit for private speculators. This isn't really exceptional. This is the norm of how housing has been in Ireland. We've built our entire economy around property developers having a right to make money off people's homes, and that has led to a very unstable economy, and also now to the situation where we have massive homelessness, but also the people paying 50 and 60% of their income in rent. I think that really the housing crisis is a structural part of Ireland's economy, not just a one-off crisis that can be solved easily.
Because there's a serious problem in Ireland to do with housing. There's too many people at risk of homelessness.
Well, I think they need to stop to build lots of students' accommodation and hotels and start to build affordable housing, because even with my job, I can't afford the rent in the moment because it's just too expensive. I'm just looking for accommodation for myself and for my 5-year-old daughter, and we're looking for over a year on a HAP scheme. I'm a working single mom, and I can't find any accommodation, so this is really deeply affecting me. And I know this is deeply affecting many people, really, and something has to be done, really.
Well, we're trying to let the government know we're not pleased with their housing policies, really. I'm a mother, a grandmother and a great-grandmother, and my kids can't get houses. The grandkids can't get a place to rent. So you end up with me and all my friends having our kids till they're 40 or 50, trying to get some sort of housing. And then I'm walking the streets and seeing people asleep in doorsteps. And it's just very sad, and I don't see how any government can treat that as not a total crisis.
Housing rights are under attack! Stand up, fight back! Education is under attack! Stand up, fight back! The travelers' rights are under attack! Stand up, fight back!
Housing is our human rights! This is why we have to fight! Join the protest!
Join the protest!
Join the protest!
Join the protest!
We had a housing march in Dublin, and there were over 10,000, possibly up as much as 15,000 people at it. And it was the second march of that size in just a couple of months in Dublin. I think to understand the significance of that, it's important to know that Ireland doesn't really have a culture of marching in that kind of way. During the water charges campaign, there would have been up to 100,000 people on the streets. But other than that, it's really been decades and decades since Irish people have mobilised around a campaign. Yeah, I guess one other thing that's really changed, I think, in the last number of years is that all over the city, in little laneways behind buildings like this, you'll see tents emerging. and there's just campsites actually cropping up all over the city. It's becoming like somewhere like Los Angeles, San Francisco, where there's a whole sector of people who now have absolutely nowhere to go whatsoever.
So we need to raise our voices. We need to raise our intelligence. We need to raise our children. We need to raise the roof. Okay. Hello, World News. Hello, BBC World News. And Al Jazeera. And the New York Times. And whoever else has the balls to put this on the TV.
So I guess the government says that it's not possible to solve the crisis because it would take so much money if we were to do it through the state. But in reality, my view is that it's not really about the fact that the money's not there. It's much more to do with the fact that our government wants private developers to be the people who solve the crisis.
We're demanding radical action, and we're back out on the streets today to remind them that we are still here. We are not going away. And Owen Murphy and Fine Gael tried to tell us that everything is okay. We see Owen Murphy standing in front of his latest hub, cutting ribbons. They talk about the economy. They want us to think that we all have fantastic, highly paying jobs. They want us to believe that everything is okay. We're saying it's not okay.
One of the tactics that activists have used is to occupy buildings that have been left empty for a very long time. So the particular focus in terms of buildings that were occupied was to find ones which either had seen tenants evicted and then had been left vacant by the landlord, or just buildings that have been vacant for a very long time. And the purpose of that activity was to highlight that the City Council has the power to take those buildings into public ownership and rent them to people who are struggling in terms of housing at the moment.
To be honest, the housing crisis has gotten so bad, it's getting to the point where it's affecting everyone. I don't think I know anyone personally who hasn't been affected by the housing crisis or knows someone who has. I myself, I'm a student and I have found it very hard to find accommodation and affordable accommodation. I get the grant system, so I get €336 a month from the grant. But my rent is €340, so I actually am spending over 100% of my income on my rent. So it's not good enough, you know, it's not okay. I don't want to be stuck on the streets, no one else does. The fact that even if you get to the point where you're able to afford education, and then people aren't able to go because they don't have a house. Like, I know my friend lives in Tipperary and he's commuting to Maynooth from Tipperary every day to go to college. I know people who are living out in Gort, in Loughrea, in Galway, where I'm from, travelling in every day to the main campus in NUIG, and it's so wrong that people should not be able to get an education because they can't find a house. And it's so wrong that people would have to work while they're trying to get an education. It's just, we've got a broken country at the moment, I think, and I think obviously it could get worse, but I think it's only going to get better from here. You've seen today the amount of people out, the excitement, the energy on the streets. I think people are really ready to fight back and really ready to stand up for ourselves.